How do we stop this cycle of violence? A lot of times within the family it's not spoken of. It's secrets that are kept. Those children become adults. They have children. And then all that comes out. And the cycle goes on and on and on. They come to church, you don't know. You look, you may have suspicions, but we're too afraid to say something. How do you stop it? Well, I've got some ideas. But the idea is the fact that you have to be committed to Jesus Christ. There is no way that you can walk with Him and He requires from you to turn the other cheek and you stand up and abuse your spouse. When He says that blessed are you when you're persecuted, and that if somebody slaps you on the right cheek, turn to him your left. If they compel you to walk a mile, go with them 2 miles. How do you stop this cycle of violence? By giving your heart fully and completely over to Jesus Christ and allowing Him to deal with that pain and that rage that is within you. You guys know what rage is? I know what rage is. I know what it's like to have to control it. I know that I can control it to a point. I know I've gotten very good at controlling it to a point in my own strength. But I also know that it only goes so far. And it doesn't change my mind. This man brought out this morning in the Sabbath school class that this is what God is able to do for us. He's able to change our minds, our brains, our thoughts, how we think and perceive and view everything. Jesus is able to take the worldliness out of me, the anger, the violence, and give me a mind and a spirit and a heart of love. That can only be done by divine intervention. That's what will change this cycle of violence. That's what will allow us to have the strength to stand up and do something. Anything. And that is what would allow us to keep from falling back into these situations. Write a new law, will that change anything? No. It'll make that worse. How many times have you heard or read or known a person to get an injunction to keep the person away from them? How well does that work? It doesn't work at all. It only works if the person is honest enough to listen to that injunction. But if they're really angry, it doesn't work. So what other protection do you have? This is why family is so important. This is why church family is so important. And this is why sanctuary is so important. Places of refuge. Places that are safe. People who will not leave here, go out those doors, and forget about you until next Saturday. Right? That's what a family does. Brothers and sisters, within this church here, in the next coming weeks, on that bulletin board in the back, we are going to have numbers of safe places, of social agencies that can help you. There are the leadership within this church that if you guys are leaders here, you better be willing and able to stand up for this. That if somebody approaches you, that you listen, and we know how to deal with this. We have social workers that work here that deal with this every day. It's not like we have no idea what to do. The question is are we willing to do something? So the bigger question is are you guys willing to feel safe enough to share with us what may be going on in your life? I will tell you this, that if you're expecting your name to be written in the Lamb's Book of Life, this is the kind of person you are, it's not going to happen. At all. And you better understand it's not just physical abuse, it's the emotional and verbal abuse. If that's the kind of person you are, and you do not change, and the Holy Spirit does not take that and control that in you, Christ doesn't live in you. No ifs, ands, or buts, and you will not see heaven. You will see hell. You guys wear steel-toe boots today? Look, in the news, you got a 14-year-old and a 12-year-old who've been arrested because another 12-year-old jumped off a platform in Lake Mary and killed herself because she was broken. Jesus said, what overcomes evil? Love. You cannot meet force with force. How you meet force is with love. And love is what changes. How did Gandhi change his nation? How did Gandhi get the English to stop controlling his country? How did he do it? You guys quoted him a couple weeks ago. You know, you guys quoted Gandhi. He loved the Christ, but he didn't like the Christians because they were so much unlike the Christ. Okay? Martin Luther King, how did he change this country back in the 60s? Love and nonviolence. Right? They stood up for what was right. They stood up for what needed to be stood up for. But with nonviolence, because love conquers evil. You've seen it, you know it works, but yet we want to meet evil with evil, and it never works. Violence begets violence. So brothers and sisters, as I close this morning, this is where it started. Cain and Abel, they both bring an offering to the Lord. They wanted God to bless them, they wanted God to smile upon them, and they wanted to have a relationship with God. One came with the requirements that God had laid out, and the other came in his own works. And God smiled upon the one, and God didn't respect the other. And so when Cain's offering was rejected, he became jealous, and he became angry. And he wasn't angry and went to God. Who did he take out his anger on? Who was he angry at? God. But who did he take out his anger on?
The only one he could get.
You understand what Ray just said? He wasn't going to be able to do anything to God, right? So the only one he could get to. Why do you think so many children are abused? Because they can't fight back because they're weak or weaker. Same within a family or a relationship structure. The strong will try to dominate the weak. And if you are an abusive person, that is what you will do. You will dominate the weak. That's not what God has called us. So Cain gets upset and he kills his brother out of a fit of rage. Now this man had 100% use of his brain. He was smarter than anybody in this room. And yet he couldn't control that passion. Why? Because that is what sin is. That is why sin is so destructive and so devastating, and why you can't play with it. Because what you deem as a little sin is like a little spark in Florida in the middle of a forest when it hasn't rained for 4 weeks. That little spark can turn into a consuming fire. Understand that? Passion. Only God can give you power to control that kind of passion. That is what you're dealing with.
Bring God back into family. Bring God back into the community. Bring God back into your church. You better get on your tail and start voting, because you're going to be stepped on. All somebody else can do it. No, it's up to you. Me.
And that's what I'm here to tell you this morning. We can't just sit back and watch this stuff. When it comes to violence, abuse, mistreatment, it's going to continue on, and it'll continue on in silence until you get brave enough to say something. or until you are able to trust somebody enough to share. And that you feel secure enough that you're able to get help. I'm here. I will do whatever I can to help you. And I will do whatever I can to make sure it doesn't happen again. But you gotta let us know. You gotta let me know. Closing hymn this morning is hymn number 518.